to a fellow fix and flipper that we knew through one of our mastermind groups. And it required that monthly payments come in. Like, we started seeing that money come in and we were like, wow, this is really nice. It's just like mailbox money. Like, we don't have to do much. We just handed this guy money to borrow over a 6-month period, and he pays us every single month.
You're listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
What's up, everybody? Mike Del Prete with the AZREIA Show. And we're going to jump right in. We got special guest Abby Robinson of Coastal Capital Lending. So we're going to learn a lot today about rentals, flips, hard money lending. So if you're listening, I'm excited for this show. Abby, welcome to AZREIA Show.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, no,
excited to be here.
Yeah, no, you're great. What we love to see at AZREIA is like when someone's new to the community, it's like taking advantage of everything that we have to offer. The networking groups, meeting people, participating, and that's what you did. Like you so how long you just moved to Arizona, right?
Yeah, it's kind of flown by. I mean, we moved here last August, and usually people like groan when I say that.
Yeah,
August. Yeah, it was 113 degrees here when we moved here, but yeah, so almost a year. And to your point, I mean, as soon as we moved here, we moved here for several different reasons, but there's a ton of opportunity here, I think, in the real estate industry. And so, the first thing we wanted to do was just hit the ground running and hit a lot of these networking events. And AZREIA has just been phenomenal. In fact, the group itself mirrored the group that we were a part of in Charleston, where there was kind of a lot of different subgroups, and you can kind of pick and choose which room you felt more comfortable in. And so I really appreciated that, and I think that's why we love AZREIA.
Cool. Well, thank you for being here. So let's talk about your story. Like, so where'd you move from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Atlanta and then moved to Charleston in 2021. My background, I'm a CPA. I went through the song and dance of college, grad school, had the W-2 job, and thought that was the answer to everything.
For sure.
And then started kind of just doing some research into real estate. And I think the reason that we got into that was because my wife's an attorney, and so we both kind of pay attention to economics and news and that kind of thing, and kind of realized quickly that there might not be, like enough for retirement when we're ready to retire. There might not be, Social Security around. And so what would be our backup plan, right? And so we got into just researching through Bigger Pockets and that kind of thing, joining that community, listening to as many podcasts as we possibly could. And then got this opportunity in Charleston to actually work for my brother. He runs an HVAC company out there. And so I was a controller for him for a couple of years. And we got into real estate investing when we moved there. And so, the first thing that we did was just try and find somebody who could be our mentor, a coach that had, been through all of this before. We're not trying to recreate the wheel here. We want to be able to take advice from people that know the area so that we could just kind of get right into it.
So you moved to South Carolina and you got a deal from your brother, you said?
No, so he actually employed me. So that's the reason why we moved there.
Got it.
I had the opportunity to work for his business, and which is great. I don't know if you've been to Charleston, but it's a beautiful little city.
Actually, we're going in October for the National RIA. We have a conference.
Nice.
So
Okay. Nice. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. So a lot of great food there as well. So try and get your reservations in now. But yeah, so started working for him, started hitting the RIA networking events out there, and then eventually ran into somebody that we found would be a great coach for us. And so we had actually been saving up for the past 2 years. We saved up like $30,000, which that was a lot of money for us at the time.
Well,
So we had our little nest egg that we were ready to use for our first real estate deal, and found out quickly that when you want to hire a coach, that can be expensive. And so that cut into a third of our savings. And we said to ourselves, you know what, if we don't do this now, then, and we don't do it the right way the first time, then, we may not get off the ground here. And so we committed and,
So you spent $10K on a coach?
$10K on a coach for the first year. And I think within maybe a month and a half, we had our first deal under contract, which was like 2 single-family homes right next to each other, which we were just blown away by.
And, that's great. So let's talk about that first deal. So, first and foremost, I'm a believer in coaches and mentors because when I started wholesaling, I did 30 wholesale deals my first year, and I wouldn't have been able to do it if I wasn't like absorbing like a sponge my partner mentor that took me under his wing kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Like I would have still been kicking the can down the road a year later. So did you have, being so new, like your wife's an attorney, you're a CPA, you're in this new place, you knew you wanted to get into real estate investing for your future, and then someone's like, not a licensed attorney type licensed CPA, give me 10 grand, I'll show you how to do the business. Like, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking about?
Yeah, so I think that, first of all, I think it would have been really easy for us to just like have analysis paralysis based on like our level, being so analytical with things. And then, over here, you're dealing with an attorney that has to abide by. So so I think it would have been really easy for us to just be like, let's just stay on the sidelines and watch.
I had an attorney friend that was like, I'm like, why don't you do more investing? He's like, because I know what can happen.
Yeah, exactly. You know too much. Yeah. Exactly. So I think the coaching was actually set up such that they were a sponsor of this real estate group.
Okay.
That was there in Charleston. They had a great track record. I spoke to other students first. We wanted to make sure that we understood exactly what we were getting for our money. And I think that doing all that research, it just kind of fit for us. Yeah.
So so you had your nest egg, you cut 10 grand to the coach. And was it like a special coach, like for landlording, flipping, wholesale? Like what kind of coach was he?
Yeah, so I was actually she was all of the above.
Yep,
it just really kind of depended on what we wanted to get into first. And I think because we were so new, we were just kind of open to like, well, we know we don't want to jump right into multifamily. We would like to start with single family. We were committed to being long-term investors at that point, and so. Yeah, we just kind of started making connections with wholesalers as quickly as possible as well. And because we both had W-2 jobs, we knew that we were going to need an agent because we didn't have time we didn't know the lingo that we were supposed to use with wholesalers. We didn't have the time to necessarily go look at all these, all these deals during the day. So that kind of worked out for us is that once we got our coach, those introductions started happening. We started meeting wholesalers. We started meeting contractors. We started meeting real estate agents. I took, people out for coffee to just pick their brains and kind of made a mental note. Like, people are doing this for you. You need to be able to remember that you're going to do this on the back end for other people, right? True. So that's kind of how we got going, was just networking as much as possible.
So you started building up the wholesalers to get lead flow coming into your business.
Yep.
And I'm assuming with your coach, you guys maybe decided to become landlords.
Yep.
Right? So you're going to do buy and hold. Now you got to start building out your team and getting leads coming in.
Correct.
So how did you find your first deal? Like, was it an agent or a wholesaler?
It was both. So we actually came to an agreement with our agent because, most of the time agents don't make anything if they're helping you find a wholesale deal, right? They make their money on the sale. And so we came to an agreement with our agent and said, hey, look, if you're able to help us find these deals through wholesalers, we'll give you X amount at closing if you can help us bring it to the table. And so that arrangement really worked for that relationship. And so had the agent call us up one day and said, hey, found something from this wholesaler that I've worked with in the past. If you'd like to go take a look at it with me, this is when we can meet. And so it was the 2 homes next to each other, and we were both like, are we doing 2 homes on our first deal? Like, are we really that crazy? And so, but it ended up working out. So
were they 2 different parcels or 2 single families, 2 different parcels next to each other as
Correct.
a package?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. So now, like here in Phoenix, obviously when you buy from a wholesaler, it's non-refundable, no inspection. Were you able to get in? Being your first property, I usually recommend try to get an inspection period. You know what I mean? So what was your situation?
So we actually had our coach meet us over there with our agent. And so before we decided to put an offer in, and that worked out well for us because it was both of homes were great bones. It wasn't going to take too much in terms of rehab. I think it was like a $30,000 rehab on both of them, which I feel like is like unheard of these days. But at the time, these were small homes, and it was just it just kind of the numbers all worked out. I mean, we tried to kill it as much as possible, but it just kept working out in terms of looking at the numbers. So yeah, we took it down, and we actually ended up wholetailing one of them because we were.
Oh, well, hold that. Okay. I'm like where you're going with that.
Okay.
So let's talk about. So you found a deal. How did you purchase? Where'd the money come from?
Yep. So we used, actually, my coach ran a hard money lending business that eventually ended up employing my wife. And so it kind of worked out. And so we used the hard money lending business in Charleston to take down the property.
So
both properties, sorry.
So use the rest of your savings, so that potentially that you had after you pay for the coach, use that as hard money down payment. So now you own the property quickly, got a good deal. And now you have to renovate it. So Did you lean on the agent and the coach and everything to build your team and renovation bids and all that?
Yes. We used actually somebody that was recommended through my agent, and my agent was a fix and flipper himself. And so that was kind of important for us. We needed to make sure that somebody that's providing us comps knows what they're talking about. They have experience in this part of town, which is funny because he ended up buying a property right across the street from us, like a month and a half later. So we were kind of, both renovations were going at the same time. But yes, so we had enough to be able to take down the property for I think it was 10% down at the time. We had enough to be able to deal with carrying costs while we were in the loan. And then we had our bids ready to go prior to even closing. So we got started right away.
So I think a great point there is any service provider you use in real estate should have real estate investing experience.
Yes.
Like having a coach and an agent that's an investor, I think that probably made you feel a lot more confident going into that.
It sure did. And actually, funnily enough, our contractor ran his own property management company too. So, and this is all just through going to RIA events. I mean, you meet people that you may not think are essential to your team until you find out they actually do their own, real estate investing in some form or fashion. So yeah, I think that's
huge.
important.
So now you got the property, you're renovating it, got 2 units. So what happened next while you're renovating? You started mentioning wholetailing.
Yeah, so one of the properties was in better condition than the other, so we decided let's go ahead and rehab that one. And then when we were able to get, because one of them was vacant when we closed, the other one had a tenant in it, but they were going to be out by close. And so we were able to take a deeper dive into that one after we closed down the property and realized, oh, this one might take a little bit more. It's a little bit over what we had anticipated the budget would be. What if we just made some small fixings here and there and then just relisted it? And so that's what we did with that one. So
how'd that look? Like, so you wholetailed it. So for those that don't know what wholetailing is, maybe you could share.
Yeah, so my version of it is a wholesaler takes down a property and then they close on it. So they are owners of it. And then they turn around and they relist it on the MLS. And typically, depending on the type of, they're going to be targeting specific buyers depending on what the condition of the home is. So maybe anywhere from an investor to first-time home buyer to perhaps even turnkey. Who knows? Who knows how much the quote-unquote wholesaler's putting in while they have the property under ownership.
And did you sell it cash, like on a wholesale market, or did you list it?
No, we ended up listing it, and we got a first-time home buyer, which was great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so that must put your basis down. Well, it helped out the original, made the original deal even better.
Yes, absolutely. Because we only had it listed. I mean, it went pretty quickly. I mean, this was in the summer of 21. And so you could literally take down a home, repaint it, and then list it the next day for some ridiculous amount of ridiculous sales amount. So yeah, that worked out really well. And, I mean, the rehab was very close to what we'd anticipated. I think we went a little bit over budget, but overall, we weren't looking for a home run. We were looking for maybe a double or just a base hit. It was our first deal, and so there's a lot of scary things that happen in your first deal because it's just the fear of the unknown. Wow. But then, once we finished that deal, we were able to move on to another, and it just kind of snowballs, right?
You rented it out, that one.
We ended up renting that one out. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We found a great tenant through our contractor / property manager. And we had that one. We had great tenants in that one the entire time that we owned it.
So I'm assuming you did the BRRRR on that because you had a hard money loan. So you had to get rid of the hard money loan. So how did you get, what'd you do to get the financing to pay the hard money off?
Yep. So we set up our financing probably halfway through our rehab. We knew who we were going to use, and it was based on recommendations from the inner circle. And so, yeah, we BRRRR'd out of it. We actually ended up, and then I think it came in 20,000 higher than what we thought it was going to hit for ARV. So it was great. We were able to pull cash out, use it on the next deal. I mean, it just was like rinse and repeat.
Infinity.
Yeah.
Right. So, and how long did that take you to do that whole process, that first deal?
I'm pretty sure it took up most of the 6 months. We probably finished a little bit before the loan needed to be satisfied, but we were within that time frame. So most hard money deals are going to be 6 months. I've seen some that are 12, but this particular lender, it was a 6 month deal.
Congratulations. You moved to a new city within a short amount of time. You jumped into the scene, the real estate investing scene. Was it a month or two you got your first deal?
Yeah, I think it was a month and a half. Yeah.
Month and a half. Network, coach, bought a house with a month and a half.
Yeah.
Did the BRRRR. Well, you rent hard money, renovated it, BRRRR'd it, and wholetailed, which is like so you did all that.
All of the above.
Great experience. Like
it was fun.
You got to be in the game.
You
got to be in there doing it.
And it's actually probably a good thing that like we hired everything out, because I think that just with my personality type, I would have been like just absolutely crazy about it. Like, what's going on this day and what's going on? So it was good that I was distracted by my W-2, and I knew that about myself. And so you learn a lot about what you do and don't like, I think, through those first few deals. And that's kind of what we learned was, this is what we do like, this is what we don't like, this is what we're not going to do, this is what we're willing to do. But
what is that? Let's go forward now.
Yeah. So, I mean, what
do you like to do?
Well, we kind of flipped our strategy from, 2021 and 2022 were crazy. I mean, you couldn't mess up, right?
True.
Just take a house down and turn it over, and somehow...
Bad investor can make money.
Exactly. And so I think that was a great learning period for us, was just finding out, like, because even if we were like, ooh, we didn't like that, we still did not, fail, right? We still fared well, and... we slowly scaled up. No, not slowly. We quickly scaled up. I think in our first 12 months, we got 18 doors down, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend for anybody that has a W-2 job.
Single families?
Single families.
Well, you had a job while you guys both had a job.
Both of us had jobs, yeah. So we went single family, and then we hit like small multifamily. So we had a couple duplexes next to each other, and then we moved in. We landed this like small mobile home park deal.
Oh wow!
And that's, I think, was our first, because we took down the mobile home park in like February of 22, and that was the first time that we hit a wall, because it was like we took it down in February. We needed a couple of months to kind of get rents up to market rather. And then we had a couple squatters that we had to kind of take care of. Just a few things that we needed to take care of to bring the park up to its full potential. And so that took like maybe two and a half months. And so we went to the lender that we had lined up, because we bought it with hard money. And so we went to the lender that we wanted to refinance out with. And this was like right around May, June of 22. So this is when rates started going creeping up, right? And the banks started, changing their strategies. They were like, we don't want your ugly mobile home park now.
Wow.
And so I was like, but wait, you said what?
You said you would
do this. And so, that kind of caught us on our heels. And I mean, I think I called, 3 dozen lenders to try and figure out how to get out of this thing. And eventually, I mean, just kept being told, no, we don't want it. And so we decided to syndicate it.
There you go. Okay.
And had never done that before. And so leaned on people that did know how to do it, and took our own stab at, is this what an executive summary is supposed to look like? And so that was stressful, because we had to extend in a hard money loan, which is very expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
But we eventually ended up working with the bank, ended up being able to raise the majority of what we needed, and then had the bank come in for a land loan to cover for the rest. And so we have 9 limited partners on that, and they get paid every single month, and that's a 5-year deal. And so I think we're in year 2 now and haven't had one complaint from the investors.
Okay, so a lot happened in that first year or so.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit. So how are you finding the deals? You just continue using wholesalers and agents just to keep getting the deals?
Yeah, and this one actually came from our coach. She knew this mobile homeowner, and it was like an old friend of hers. She had owned it for like 20 years. It was very much mom and pop kind of thing. They were not like, it was kind of bare bones. It was very basic. There's not like additional amenities that we could like capture in terms of like parking or wash laundry or nothing like that. And our coach knew that we were trying to get into more multifamily deals. And so it was brought to us. We ran numbers and threw a number out there, and they accepted. And that was the roller coaster ride that started with mobile home ownership.
Wow. So what have, you said 9 partners or 5?
9 partners.
9 partners.
Yep.
So I'm assuming maybe you used the same hard money lender in the beginning.
We did.
Same lender, so you built that relationship. They trusted in you guys, saw what you could do, lent on the mobile home. Now, my question is let's talk about like raising the money.
Yeah.
Right? So it's your first mobile home park. So a lot of people would be like, have you ever raised money before this?
No.
Just besides hard money and your own personal cash?
No.
So what are some tips we can share with everybody about raising money and jumping into this?
I would say that you need to be humble. I mean, I went through my entire phone. I went through everybody that I knew on Facebook. I was desperate, right? Like we had our backs against the wall. And so there was just no shame associated with anything. I mean, I was respectful about people's time and how to open up a conversation like this. But I reached out to everybody I knew, everybody, and simply said, look, we've been investing in real estate for the past year or so, and we've got this deal that we can pay 8% on. We can pay you every single month, and this is what we're trying to raise. And you have to be careful about, there are some rules when it comes to raising capital. And so you need to be familiar with those rules, which we became very familiar with them very quickly. But it was a 506B raise, which there's a difference between a 506B and a 506C. And 506B is being able to raise from your bros and blood, so your family and people that you already have an established relationship with, and you cannot advertise for that type of fund raise. Whereas a 506C fund, I like to say it stands for C, for a crowd. And so for those, you can go advertise for those and plaster it all over Facebook if you want, or social media, and tell people what you're paying out and basically the specifics of the deal you can talk about with a microphone.
Yeah. And you did the B, you said.
So we did the B.
Okay.
Yeah. So we just reached out to everybody that we knew, and our goal was $650,000 to raise. We ended up raising $450,000. And we just kind of got stale with being able to pull people into the fund. And so we just went back to the bank and said, hey, we've got this amount. Will you guys come in for the land? And they agreed.
Awesome. So I always tell people around here, it's like the money's right in front of you.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what's so big, like social media, whatever it is, talk to friends and family, letting them know what you do.
Yeah.
Even if you're just networking, you're just getting started, like let people know you're in the world, you're working on it, you're learning. And because a lot of those people probably didn't even know that you think that.
No,
they
you're
were in
right.
the
You're
world,
absolutely right. They had no idea. And what's funny is I was surprised at some of the people that did come in, like talking about like friends that I've known forever, or family, like Uncle Kevin. What? I had
money?
no idea. Yeah, exactly. Like I had no idea that you would be interested in this. So don't make presumptions, because you'd be surprised. You just need to get in front of the right people.
And did you go and say, meet me here, and do a 20-page slide deck?
No, I didn't. I did not do that. I think that that's appropriate for some settings, but I did not do that, because I was working with very bare bones of like, this is how you do this, and this is the time that we have to be able to raise these funds. So go get to work, right?
Yeah.
I try and be as real as possible with investors. I want to be able to understand who our investors are and what their motivations are, so that, because it may not be a good fit. It needs to be a good fit for both sides, regardless of how much and how badly you need the money, right? And so I feel like I kind of let the investor lead the conversation and see what it is that they're looking for and what their goals are, and then just kind of fill in the gaps and ask them questions. And because, people need to know, like, and trust you if they're going to hand, cash over to you.
Yeah, it's very important. So it could be that simple.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like they trust in you. So one, your characters, what they mainly invested in.
Right.
You had the deal. You were able to show that it's a good deal. And you wanted to know their needs, like because I always say there's lumps of cash and streams of cash, and if you try to bring a deal to someone that wants lumps of cash, It's just, like I said, you found out what they needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't do that, it's going to not work out a few months down the
Right.
road. So, perfect. So, we covered your first year or so in the business. A bunch of houses, a mobile home park, raising money, all this amazing stuff. And where did you go next?
So the mobile home park, I think, was a little bit of a game changer for us because it was a true multifamily property that we were managing that, it wasn't just our money in it, it's investors' money. Like, we have a responsibility to them.
Yeah.
But we also learned a lot about ourselves, and that is that, we preferred to, like, when things were going on with this park, we also had other deals going on, and we kind of transitioned from long-term rental to fix and flips. And so we quickly realized, like, oh, it's interesting when you take the tenant out, like, not have to worry about, dealing with toilets and that kind of thing. And so we found that we enjoyed fix and flips over long-term rentals, but we knew we needed to still focus on we were not going to get rid of the mobile home park at all. I mean, that was our cash cow. That brings us all of the fun tax benefits associated with having real estate. And so just kind of slowly moved into, let's start partnering up with people, right? Because we still have these jobs.
That's right. You still have jobs.
We still have W-2 jobs, right? But let's see what this looks like when we're not doing all the work, right?
Yeah.
And so, kind of tested the waters with different partnerships and learned a lot from that. But we've got some really solid partnerships that we still focus on in the Charleston area that we just absolutely love. And so, wow, we still have that fix and flip income leg, which we like to focus on. But I think that in everything that we learned in those first 2 years, you like I said, you kind of slowly realize what you do and don't like. And we ended up doing, I can't even remember how this came about. We ended up doing a small, like, second lien position to a fellow fix and flipper that we knew through one of our mastermind groups. And it required that monthly payments come in. Like, we started seeing that money come in, and we were like, wow, this is really nice. It's just like mailbox money. Like, we don't have to do much. We just handed this guy money to borrow over a 6-month period, and he pays us every single month. And how can we, like, capitalize on that and maybe do this 3 or 4 times so that we can start replacing, our W-2 income, right? And so in terms of, like, my job, I kind of, my brother and I reached a point where we had fulfilled what we needed to with one another. And so I started actually taking on some bookkeeping clients. Okay. Real estate investor bookkeeping clients, which ended up being a little bit difficult.
They're really organized.
Yeah, that was an interesting move on my part, I think. But again, I learned a lot going through that and just kind of realized, like, look, I don't even have to peddle with this. Like, if we just take our money and move it into this lending space, this could check a lot of boxes for us. And so right around that time, we actually came out to Phoenix for the first time. This was like last May. And the reason that we came out here is because my mother-in-law had a place out here, and her and her husband were splitting their time between here and Kiowa Island in Charleston. Okay. And so they bought a house, call it December 2022. And they came out here like 3 days after Christmas. And they were like, we'll be back in a couple of months. And they just, like, never came back. And so by the time May rolled around, we were like, fine, we'll come out and visit you guys. And so we did, and we just absolutely fell in love with Arizona. Great. And we literally on the way home, I think on the flight home, I looked over at Kelly and was like, let's just sell our house and move out here. Let's just do something crazy, So cool. It made for a really interesting summer. We came home, had a conversation with her family, my family, and contacted our agent and said, let's see what happens. And of course, our house sold in like 7.5 minutes. And so, I mean, we ended up selling most of our furniture just because we didn't want to take all that across country. Yeah. Just picked a spot in Phoenix, and we were looking for
that could be a
yeah, I know. It was, I think we got kind of lucky, I feel like. Cool. But yeah, we ended up in like North Glendale. Yeah. Up by the 101, like Thunderbird Mountain. But yeah, so we found a furnished place here to rent because we didn't know this. You know, we don't know Phoenix yet. We need to find out where we want to lay our roots. And so in that process, well, of course, when we sold our house, we were sitting on a ton of equity. We were like, we can't just throw this in a savings account. That would be insane.
Yeah.
And so we started reaching out to people that we knew that we could trust in terms of lending funds out to. And that's kind of how we kind of organically fell into the private lending. And we said, you know what, let's just make this official. Let's create a hard money lending business. We already know all the rules, both from a borrower standpoint and from, Kelly worked in a hard money lending business, right?
That's true.
And then our mentor was an owner of a hard money lending business. And so, she and her partners had put on several different, like mastermind events and that kind of thing too, that we had attended. And so we made sure that we had our foundation in terms of education. And then from there, it was like, let's figure out what we can do with this thing.
That's great. Well, when you say May and August,
of last year.
Same year.
Yeah.
Visit in May, moved in August. Okay, got it.
Yes.
So you guys had jobs, you had probably flips or rentals going on.
Yeah.
Like, what was the thought process to be like, let's tie it all up? And
well, we just, we started selling off most of our single family home portfolio because we knew we wanted to transition the capital into this fund that we're, so that we can funnel the funds into the hard money lending business. And so we had all that going on. The mobile home park, I knew that we needed to automate a lot of systems. And so we worked to do that. And so by the time we left, we were like, well, we're taking care of everything, and it's 2023. So I feel like we can get things done in another state as long as we're just hyper aware of like what's going on with each of our properties. And the hard money lending stuff, you don't need to be present for any of that.
No.
You can be wherever. So I think that's what the reason that checked the box for us was because we did this specifically to live our lives a certain way, and being able to be more present with family, being able to kind of say, this is when I'm going to take my vacation and not have to worry about getting it approved, just living the lifestyle that where we make our own hours, right?
Yeah.
And so that worked out for us within the lending space, and it's worked out ever since.
So you didn't have to come here and get a job or anything? Yep. Okay, so you sold all your property, or not all, you sold some of your properties,
right?
Put it into your fund, and now you already had the connections and the presence inside of your community.
Yep.
So you started lending to people you knew, and obviously the word spreads and keeps growing. So do you lend in Arizona, or do you just South Carolina, other cities, states?
We lend in 15 states, and we actually have a map on our website. It's coastalcapitallending.com. If you go to the Borrow tab, most of our lending is in the southeast of the United States. We do not lend in Arizona. There's, quite a bit of red tape out here, I would say, in terms of, licensure requirements and fees and hurdles you got to jump over. And so we just decided, let's stick with what we know. Stick with the Southeast. And we grew up in Atlanta. We know that area very well. We know Georgia. We know South Carolina. We're familiar with North Carolina. So it just kind of made sense for us to just focus on not trying to recreate the wheel, but just work within the parameters that we know.
And so did you have to get back into capital raising, or just kind of from selling the houses and getting returns?
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a nest egg to start with, but we knew that in order to keep the business moving, we were going to have to start raising capital. So we actually started raising capital in October of last year, and our goal was $2.5 million for the fund that we have open now. And so what we did was we opened up a fund as a 506B at first, so that we could get in everybody that we knew that was a non-accredited investor. And so we kind of put the word out and we said, there's a deadline to this. It's December 15th. And so we got in as many people as we could. And then we filed to have the fund amended to a 506C fund so that we could start advertising for it. And so I think to date, we're just over $1.5 million for capital raise. And in terms of total loans, we are at, I think, 1.75. So we've had some capital recycled so that we could put it back out. And so it's been fun.
That sounds fun.
It's been
in a very short period of time.
Yeah. So capital raising is not my favorite, but just because I think it requires a very specific skill set.
What's that?
As soon as I'm able to nail that down, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
This might be why I'm not the best at it, but
I don't know if you were raised or grown, like I was never raised to ask people for $500,000.
Yeah, it's not comfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
I mean, you have to wake up in the morning and like look at yourself in the mirror. You've got to have your Wheaties, right? You've got to be prepared to be told no or ignored over and over and over again, and just understand that there is a yes out there somewhere. Great. And it's probably coming from somebody that you would not expect. So just having, I think that mindset of just renewal and being able to refresh. It's a new day. Like, let's go get it. Right. And so I think that's probably not my favorite part, but there are people out there that are very good at it. And I think making those connections with those people is important. So
is this hard money world, is that going to now going back to your goal of getting in retirement and everything? Are you seeing that as the future of your retirement, just a hard money fund, or are you going to keep picking up properties?
Yeah, I think both. I think a little bit of both. I mean, great question. I think that, the way that I look at income is I look at it as a table. And so I want to have each leg has a different income stream. Okay. And maybe that's a table that have 4 legs. Maybe that's a much bigger table that has 8 legs. But I think that sets you up for the what ifs, right? So if one leg of that table goes out, it's going to be it won't be as impactful if you have a table that has one leg and it goes out, right?
Good job.
Right, exactly. W2 job. So the more income, streams that we have, or table legs that we have, the better. So I think focusing on our own fix and flips is a must, and we would love to get started out here. I think that now that we've got this traction with the fund and we've got some momentum, it will allow for us to spend a little bit more time on where do we want to invest in Phoenix, right? We're currently still doing that in the Charleston market, but would love to get started out here. But yeah, I think the hard money lending business, the goal is to grow that out, to have a team associated with it. We want to stay skinny, so not necessarily a giant team, right? We don't need too much for us to consider ourselves successful, and then just do our thing, right?
Love it.
Work on the business, not in the business.
Do your thing. That's why we get into real estate.
That's right. Why would do this? Do our thing.
That's so true. So you debunked a lot of you mentioned analysis paralysis earlier, right? So just the fact that you went to a new market you didn't know, I'm going to kind of recap and we'll start wrapping up. The fact that you went and got a coach, right? So you knew you didn't know it all. You needed some type of assistance. You got some guidance. Some people are nervous to get a coach, right? And then you didn't go out and door knock, right? Which is okay. But, you got a wholesaler and an agent. You built a team. And you kept your job. So you don't have to quit your job.
No.
Right? I think that was very smart. Like a lot of people think they get some of the motivation stuff out there. It's like, burn the boats, quit your job. No, I think it's actually good to have your job at first.
Yeah.
So kept your job this whole time. You guys kept swinging the bat.
Yeah. So
from single family to fix and flips to the BRRRR to hard money to raising capital. Wow, you did a lot. It's
been a lot. I mean, looking back, on the last 3.5 years or so, I never thought we'd be where we are today. Not just physically, not just in a different state, but I never thought that we would be.
Yeah, now you're in a whole nother state doing it virtual.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say that I think it's so important to have some sort of mentorship in your life, even if it doesn't pertain to your industry. We will always have a coach. We will always be part of a mastermind that allows for us to bounce ideas off of other people that have been in our shoes before, or that it's nice to have that collaboration, right?
Or they're in the shoes you want to get to.
Say again?
Or they have the shoes on that you want to get to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And even if it's just a don't do that, type of takeaway. But I mean, anytime we go to any of our events associated with our coaching groups, I mean, we're always walking away with 2 or 3 nuggets that
always,
I mean, can not only just be applied probably to our industry, but also probably just great life advice. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll always have that because we always want to continue learning. And I think that, I mean, there's a low barrier to entry to get into real estate investing. There really is. And I think that's the beauty of real estate. investing. But it's on you to continue to educate yourself and to, make sure that you're abiding by new laws and making sure that you're meeting new people. And because, especially for our business, like when we're raising funds, I don't expect somebody to, on the first phone call, to say, okay, great, I'll wire over $100,000 today. No, you're planting a seed that it could not sprout for 3 years. Who knows?
Yes.
So you have to be patient, and you have to understand, you have to be able to pivot. I'll say that.
Okay.
So
perfect.
Especially with market fluctuations and such.
Oh my God. Yeah. So having these relationships, being in these groups are helpful. And not only are you always learning, you also help teach us, right? So now you're even teaching. So you come to AZREIA, you've been helped out with the women's group quite a few times, and I think you're going to do it again. Another one coming up?
I might be.
Or did you just do it?
We'll see. I think we're squaring that away when.
Okay, got it.
Before I leave.
So if you want to meet Abby in person, you like the podcast. Right?
I'm always here to help, though. I'm always happy to guest star, and
we appreciate that.
And I'm just because I'm the person in front of the room does not mean that I know everything. And so that's what I like about these groups is, again, even being somebody that can come speak to other real estate investors, I always walk away with a nugget.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Awesome.
So, yeah.
So thank you for helping out here at AZREIA.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So if someone wants to get a hold of you, reach out to you, talk about...
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook. Just search my name, Abby Robinson. Same thing with Instagram. I do have a business account for Instagram as well, Coastal Capital Lending, which is our hard money lending business. And so we also have a website for that, coastalcapitallending.com. And so if anybody is interested, they can go in there, poke around. And the invest side of things is also a part of that website as well. So if people have more questions about wanting to join our fund, I'm happy to give more information on that.
Awesome. Well, great show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Great story. I didn't know all that. So make sure to give her a call. Let her know what you saw her on the AZREIA Show. Yeah. Follow her Instagram and her social media. Catch her at an AZREIA meeting.
Yeah,
wherever
absolutely.
It may be. So everyone listening, appreciate you listening. And that's a wrap.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby. Cool.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Prete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.